This place where the horn is, the strength is, the skull is. She just began to tap at it like a woodpecker, walking me through what I now know is called male to female inversion. Male to female inversion. Just a moment, please. Male to female inversion is a long-standing process that takes place in many of the Western nations whereby a child is sacrificed as part of keeping one's covenant to a secret society. It can be the Illuminati, it can be the Baphomet situation, it can be the Masons, it can be quite a few of them. Inversion means to turn something upside down. It means to turn something upside down. And so male to female inversion, its counterpart is called female to male inversion. Male to female inversion is where you give birth to a child. You usually will offer your first child to make mockery of God, saying, everything that opens the womb is mine. So the Lord has long said in Leviticus that even if it's a sheep, even if it's a goat, whatever opens the womb, whatever comes out first, that firstborn is always his portion. So this is why all the rights of succession, this is why all the inheritance, the property, the bulk of it would go to the firstborn, because obviously if something is the Lord's, then you're going to highly honor it by giving him the property. And then the younger brothers and sisters get what is called portions. They get portions, but the firstborn gets the lot. He gets the main inheritance. And so the Lord says that all who are first in the family are automatically his, dedicated to him, his portion, which is why then when God is enraged at a people, it is the firstborn he will go after. It is his own portion that he destroys. We just feel the pain. We're just the one who lose our firstborn son, our firstborn daughter, or our husband who's a firstborn, or our wife who's a firstborn. I always remind people not to play with God. And if you want to know the extent to which God can express rage, just simply look at that 10th plague in in Egypt, when he was bringing Israel out, when he was tired of the slavery and the nonsense and the games that Pharaoh was playing with him. God took all the firstborn. I've said here very clearly that that was a very quiet day in terms of talking back to God, but a noisy day in terms of wailing. Because in every house there was a death, except in Goshen where the Israelites were. In every house, a father had fallen dead. In every house, a mother had fallen dead. In every house, perhaps both parents fell dead, where two firstborns had come together and become a family. Either a baby was gone or a teenager was gone. A newborn, the first baby they'd ever had in that family, was gone. It could be a second-born wife, a third-born son, both of them safe from death, but then they're married and they have their first baby, and the baby is gone. Even in the homes of the singles, if you were a firstborn, you were gone. Many, many, many deaths. And I said that the most devastating death at all would have been a firstborn dad, a firstborn mom, and their first baby. These are the things that God can do. And so she was telling me this thing, and it was not going in well. It was not going in easy. I had so many questions, and I was asking, what makes you think this? What makes you? I said, these people are famous. Just the way some people say, who told you that's true? If it was true, it would be on the news. If there was human trafficking network in America, it would be on the news. It was a very odd reaction for me after all these years. But that is because sometimes you plateau with the Lord. He tells you truth, tells you truth, tells you truth, and you really truly believe that you have come to the bottom of the dumpster. But like I said, the Lord can reveal a whole secret room, a whole extra floor of the dumpster. And the Lord was using this woman to bring me into the understanding that male to female inversion and female to male inversion exists in this country. It is a type of sacrifice of your firstborn child. It is usually the firstborn child that is given over as a pledge, as a tribute to the mother and the father's participation in these ritualistic whatever. And when you give your child over this sacrifice, you don't kill your child. You will not kill your child. The sacrifice is that if your child is a natural female gender, you are going to systematically raise your child as a boy. This is not only letting her play boyish things and letting her play with boy toys. No, her body is going to be forced to undergo changes. Her body will be forced to undergo chemical changes and everything like that. And so when you see this thing happening in our society today, please understand, because God is desirous of us grasping truth today. For those who have never heard this, for those who are perhaps struggling, because I have not said all that I have to say. The child must go through chemical changes. This is why you see in the open trans thing that we know, this is why they go for the surgery. Now, these people that have been doing it secret all this time are simply bringing their methodologies into the mainstream. If you've ever wondered why this trans conversation is so big, it is so loud, it is so belligerent, and it is so persistent. Trans is not going anywhere, and you must understand why. So if you're wondering, where did it just come from? Why did it just burst into the public sphere? Why is everybody? It's because it's time. It's time for it to now have its glorious moments and be normalized. What they have done in the dark, they are deciding that they will act like God, and they will shout it from the rooftops, using Dylan Mulvaney as an example and all the other trans. The reason that you can see now so much information about the private clinics, about the cutting off of the woman's breasts, about the cutting off of the male genitalia, to really begin to press people, is because they have brought their madness of centuries, hear me, into the public.
All right, heading down into the home stretch on the First Lady Boys videos. Here's a good preview of what's to come. Today's video will focus on only two First Ladies and their families, Lady Bird Johnson and Pat Nixon, who are actually the two fine ladies sitting on the left. Official name, Claudia Lady Bird Johnson. Could it be that Lady Bird is actually a lady boy? Let's investigate and see if we can solve this mystery. Now, this one, in a way, it's a little difficult to prove, but I think this is a ladyboy Johnson, possibly a ladyboy who still has a Johnson, hiding in plain sight, as the book says right there. Some of you may think that's kind of a strange-looking woman, but this photo here, there's some very masculine arms going on, broad shoulders. The arms are long and masculine. Yeah, see, there's something about that mouth and the jaw. Could be another Greek one after Kennedy. I just don't think that's really a woman. See, there's Jack Kennedy, who looks kind of like an alien and seems to be taller than this one here. So I do think it's possible there's been a real female first lady, but so far I haven't seen any. I'm not sure that this would be the exception. I'm pretty skeptical. Kind of softened up a bit. Doesn't seem to be going to the gym and working out, which is probably a good idea if you're trying to be a ladyboy in the public spotlight. Yeah, there's something about the shape of that skull. You know, if you just removed the wig and the makeup and the clothing like that and just had it dress up like a man, it would look like a guy. See, this one could not pull off trying to look pretty, like Jack Kennedy tried to look like a pretty one, and sometimes they can kind of pull that off, at least enough to fool the masses, which is not really that hard to do, apparently. It almost looks like George Soros there, right? So I don't know if they're related. Now, they had a couple of daughters that we're going to take a look at. They seem to have pretty large heads. You can see those two people there with the large heads. It looks like three drag queens right there. So we're going to look at Linda Bird Johnson. So we had Lady Bird Johnson. Now we got Linda Bird Johnson Robb, who was the wife of a governor. All right? Wife of a governor. See, these people don't just go away. They get stuck in the machine, in the ruling class. Now, is that a woman or a man? It's somewhat difficult to tell there. It does have a pretty deep-set eyes. See, there's something off with this person. Now, it's possible a woman could kind of look like this. Those ears are pretty large. So, you know, we just have to observe. It does seem like there's an Adam's apple there. Yeah, see, look at those shoulders. That's a pretty large frame, Adam's apple. It kind of looks like a dude in makeup, in a wig, in a red dress, and a pearl necklace to me. And there again, that's looking a lot like a drag queen to me. I mean, a real woman might look kind of similar to that, almost. But, see, look at those shoulders. Now, part of that could be shoulder pads on the dress, but still. That's a pretty rectangular-shaped frame on that body. And tall. Look at George Bush is about 6 feet tall, and they're about the same height. Yeah, so that's, you know, I think I've only met one woman in my life who's been like 6 feet tall. Lucy Baines Johnson, former first daughter of Ladyboy Johnson. So again, there's a bit of a masculine feature to that face. That was a little bit pudgy, so it does kind of cover up the bone structure a little bit. Now, is that kind of a larger guy with a wig? Yeah, see, there's something kind of masculine. It looks kind of like a pudgy boy. That's a pretty large body, if you think about it. You know what I mean? I don't think that's kind of a large woman. Now, there it is when it's older. A little thinner, actually. It does kind of look like a transvestite a little bit now, right? Now, why is it doing the Pelosi smile? That is something that the transvestites do to try to feminize their face. There's Pelosi. Speak of the devil. That's why sometimes these politicians are kind of hard, because they're not trying to look like pretty women, usually. They're trying to look kind of like serious or even homely women. They're basically just putting on a dress and a wig and some makeup, and they don't look like pretty women, so we just assume they're kind of unattractive women, and then we just kind of leave it there, you know what I mean? So I guess that's the question. Are these relatively strange and unattractive looking women, or are they just drag queens? Are they just men in drag who did not do a whole lot of feminization procedures to make them more palatable? But one question you do have to ask is, why would a powerful man like the President of the United States be married to such an unattractive woman? And I'm not saying looks are everything, of course, but something to think about. And let's take a look at Pat Nixon. Thelma Catherine Pat Nixon. Pat. Is it a girl or a boy? Well, it does seem to have a pretty square jaw. And not exactly a huge person necessarily, but fairly square shoulders as well. It's the square head that concerns me with this one. It has a pretty angular jaw, prominent cheekbones. So I do think there is a manly quality to this person if you can just look behind the makeup and the wig and the dress. Now, those are some pretty large hands and some pretty long fingers. And again, you got that square jaw. So even if you thought that's a real female, you must admit that's a pretty masculine looking face overall. You can see the brow bone there, the square jaw, somewhat of a thick neck. So for me, I'm thinking that's a transvestite. Now the dress flares out on the bottom. Yeah, even that stance right there, those shoulders, the whole torso looks very rectangular, and they kind of put that belt up high so the dress flares out. This one seems to be wearing a waistband, or a corset, actually. See, it's wearing a corset now in two different photos back to back. And look at that huge jaw. That is almost a bulldozer jaw. You could say that's a bulldozer jaw, in fact, this one here. So now you can think what you want about Tricky Dick over there. Not quite sure what to make of him. He does have a strange and unusual face, actually. Maybe he just found out right there, right? There's the moment he found out his wife was a man. And this is Hannah Milhouse Nixon, the mother of Tricky Dick. Now this one, you'd think it would just be a woman, but see, there's the bulldozer jaw of the wife. For some reason, the face is covered up. And there's the mother. Now the mother, I didn't think the mother would be a man, but it almost kind of looks like a man, doesn't it? I mean, what's going on with that mother? You do have to be careful when people get older. It's harder to tell, but not quite sure what to make of this mother of Nixon. And who knows, maybe Nixon himself has a few strange biological anomalies as well. So I'm not sure what's going on with Tricky Dick. So at least in this video, I think we've shown once again that, at least in my opinion, the first ladies are in fact men, as usual. Some of the daughters, questionable. Some of them may be real females. And also some of the mothers of these people may actually be men. And so it does make you wonder, where do the babies come from and all that stuff. There's a lot of unsolved mysteries surrounding these people. We know that the surface level of these people is not the entire story. There's some very strange things going on behind the scenes.
Into the public, and they have offered it to the public, and the public, as always, are always ready to take every poisoned fruit and give it a good bite and break another law of God. That is the reason why trans rights, trans stories, trans dialogue, trans discourse, trans everything is no longer a secret. This is why they're splashing the pictures of this mutilating surgery on the internet. She had even included a few of those, but my rebuke was world class. And within seconds, WhatsApp gives you maybe 2 or 3 days to go back and delete messages. She had deleted them so fast. I saw one and my anger flamed, for it was nothing but a raw gaping hole where a man had gone to a doctor to have himself hacked, and the doctor was sharing his so-called peer-reviewed hacking on the internet. I rebuked her sharply and I said, I'm holy unto the Lord. You can't pour acid in my eyes like this. Never in your life do it again. Never do it again. She said, I'm so sorry. And within seconds, all the rest that I had not looked at were gone. She had just platformed everything. I know that the Lord used this woman because God wanted me to know this thing. Male to female and female to male gender inversion is as old as the United States. It's not from the 1900s and it's not from the 1800s. It is old, 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 very old. And because we are talking about the men, this is why God showed, if you want to know what the dreams mean, the Lord was simply showing brighter and brighter and brighter lights of truth that should be illuminating these obvious men in the music industry, in the movie industry, and in the White House. I'm here to tell you who don't know that if you think the one that you think that you always talk about, the black president's wife, for years, I would hear people say this, and I just thought, if you don't like the man, don't like the man. There is no need to go above and beyond into this realm of what I thought was cruelty. I never voiced these thoughts to anyone. I just thought this is a new type of rejection of the American population, that they will say that a man's partner, a man's wife is a man. Yet I have a whole other prophecy just focused on this man alone.
Put it in a piece the trans business across Europe is astonishing. I had a paper some months back where I looked at some of the royal families of Europe going back over the last 100 years.
Yes. Yes.
And you can, they jump out at you. The male qualities there, they are actually comical.
I mean, isn't that, but it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, the royal families of Europe are full of trannies,
Trans.
basically. Trans
Yeah.
people, transsexual. I mean, that's
And
kind of mind-blowing, right? Really?
it is. Now, you could imagine that would have been feasible in the old days, before the use of photographs and video and all of that, where the people wouldn't get to see them very often. And when they did, they wouldn't get much chance to study them.
Yeah. They wouldn't
And
get close
when
to
the
them.
camera became available and video and film footage became available, we had a brief window where we could see them in the raw, if you like. But in the last 20, 30, 40 years, they appear to have greatly improved the quality, so that they're much more convincing transgenders now.
Yeah.
And of course, they carry out more surgery on them now. I would recommend, if you're interested, to go out and check some of the junior members of the British royal family.
Oh, yeah.
The ones who are around 5, 6, 7, 8. They are just like little boys,
Yeah.
But by the time they're 13, 14, 15, between the chemicals and the hormones, the surgery and so on, they will be more convincing females than they are at the moment.
Yeah, it's just such a strange thing to do. For just normal people like us, we just think, why would anybody want to change their gender or pull out, try to do this deception? And now, do you think it's something they have to do to please their gods, right? Their master?
I think it is. I think it's part of this cult, club, society. Mrs. Thatcher made a famous remark years back. She was one, and she spoke about a certain person who was getting above a station, and she was saying, he is not one of us. Mm-hmm. And, at the time, you would tend to think, well, they're speaking only of the power elite. But now that we have a different coloration on that now, because we see it could possibly mean that he wasn't a member of this club.
One of us, yeah.
One of us.
So they're in some club.
And I think the Mitfords used to have a term, you and non-you. The you being us, and of course the non-you being the rabble. And if you're one of us, then of course there must be some physical evidence that you have joined this club. Now, I don't think all of the males have to do it, or even all of the females, but I do. It is quite obvious, the more I study this, these people hate natural women.
Yeah.
They hate natural childbirth, they hate natural marriage, they hate natural families.
Yes. Is that their hatred of humanity in general, or what is
well,
that
it seems to be whether Satan hates women more than men, and this is carried through, or whether it's part of a general strategy that they are following to wipe out the family, separate sex and marriage, separate the rearing of children from their parents, so that the state raises and brainwashes the child, and where generation takes place without the uterus. Because the striking feature of an androgyne is the thing you can't see. They don't have a uterus.
Great point. But they always pretend like they do.
Pardon?
The fake pregnant bellies. They have fake pregnant bellies.
Yeah, the fake pregnancy. But this is what they all have in common. The men who are men don't have a uterus, and the women who are actually men don't.
Yes.
So you see, Satan hates this, because that's the means by which the Lord brought Christ into the world and caused the defeat of Satan. And also Satan in the garden, I mean, he went for the woman because he knew that was the weaker of the two, and he could deceive her. And Paul actually says that Satan didn't deceive Adam.
Okay.
Adam rebelled. You see, Adam had this amazingly beautiful partner, the most beautiful woman who ever lived.
Yeah.
Adam didn't really believe the lies that Satan told. But he went along with it because he was losing his woman.
Yeah.
And this seems to be all part of it. Satan is attacking women. The attack on women today is staggering.
Yeah.
And you see how they're suffering by trying to lose weight, anorexia and bulimia and all kinds of neurotic practices, and exercising to death simply to look like one of these strange transgender gargoyles. I mean,
and not wanting to get pregnant, to get fat and stuff.
And not wanting to get pregnant.
Not wanting to have babies. Abortion.
That's abortion. And the murder of children. Is anything more pleasing to Satan than to have a mother kill her own child?
Wow.